Okay, good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait a minute until we have some more attendees trickle in. Okay, all right, I think let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to our first session of Roses 2021. We are very excited that you are all here. And this session should be pretty short. I don't anticipate it taking more than about 20 to 30 minutes. But what we're going to do is we're going to briefly kind of give a broad introduction to Roses, mainly to make sure that everyone got the Zoom links. We have Zoom working well for all of us. We're going to briefly talk a little bit about where our materials are all located, and then we're going to give an overview of our cloud computing option for those that would elect to use that for the session, and then we will take any questions. So you will see that we have a chat, and then we should also have a Q&A. So if you are an attendee and you have a specific question, please feel free to put your question in the Q&A, and we will do our best to get to it. Okay, so I'm going to start with some introductions. We have a few members of our co-organizing team here. My name is Francisca Danaman-Dujic. I have a PhD in geophysics, and I am a staff member at a national lab here in the US. I've been running, I ran Roses 2020, and I'm here running Roses 2021 as well. We have two members of our co-organizing team here, Anant Hariharan and Liam Tony, and we'll be joined by a few more, hopefully today, if not further throughout the semester. We have none of our instructors on the panel today, but throughout their summer, you'll see a variety of different instructors who are joining us from across the world to share some of their seismology knowledge with us. And then I would also like to acknowledge Suzanne Vanderlee, who is the president of the AGU seismology section, and she serves as our advisor for running this summer school. So I would also like to acknowledge, before we go any further, that Roses 2021 has both financial and in-kind support from a number of organizations, and we're very grateful for that. So thank you to the IGU Seismology Section, IRIS, the Seismology Society of America, and the Alaska Satellite Facility for helping us run this summer school. Okay, so I think what we're going to do next is Anant is going to give us a brief tutorial on where all of our materials are located on GitHub, and how you can go ahead and get them. And then, oops, I forgot. The other thing is that we will be running everything for Roses via Slack. So you should have been emailed a link to join the Slack workspace. If you have not joined the Slack workspace, please make sure that you do, because I will no longer be sending any email communications for the summer. All communication will happen on that Slack channel. So if you want to participate and receive links to materials and things like that, you do need to be participating on that Slack channel. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. So Anant, why don't you take it away?
Sure, thanks, Francisca. So as Francisca said, all of our course materials are stored in GitHub. And for those of you who don't know what GitHub is, it's a version control and code repository hosting service. We won't be using most of its advanced features in this course. You shouldn't need to worry too much about its finer features. Our GitHub repository can be found at this URL, github.com/roses f.dugek/roses2021. And so each week we'll have a new folder uploaded. You can see that right now we have the unit 0 folder, unit 0_ops_by. And next week we'll have unit 1 and so on and so forth. And the easiest way to download course materials is to use the git clone command. So to do this, just open up a terminal window. And within the folder that you want the course materials to be stored in my case, I've called this folder roses directories, you just type in git and then the URL, this URL, and then you press enter and a bunch of text lines come up. And then you should have the most up-to-date course materials in the folder Roses 2021. So now I can cd into this folder and you'll see that now you have the unit 0_ops folder and some other useful materials in there. And as I said, each week we'll upload new materials here. And so to update your folder with the most up-to-date materials, you can use the git pull command and then just type in the same URL. And well, right now it says I'm already up to date, but if you're not up to date, you'll be up to date after you type in that command. So that's basically it. If another way you can download materials is just by clicking the download on the actual website, but git clone is easier. And that's about it. That's sort of the way we're organizing our materials.
Cool. So before we move on, do we have any questions about GitHub or accessing the files from our attendees? Okay. Great. And so Liam is going to give us a little bit of a demo as well.
Hi, everyone. Go ahead and share screen here. Okay. Francisca, is a GitHub page visible here?
Yes.
Excellent. So now I'm going to talk about the Python environment that we'll use for the course. So as you're probably familiar with, from the emails we've sent out, all of the course instruction will take place in the Python programming language, and specifically using Jupyter notebooks, which are interactive notebooks that contain text and code. Some of you may be familiar with these, but if you're not, that's great. They're very easy to use. And in our Roses repository, we have an environment file called rosesenvironment.yml. And this file contains the Python packages that we will be using during this course. And this file may get updated as we proceed, or we might introduce another file. But what I show today will be relevant for creating additional environments from other files as they arise. And it's a really simple process. So if I click on this file, just so we can see what's in here, we have the name of the Python environment, and then whatever dependencies, whatever packages we need to run our notebooks. And we'll be using Conda to set up this environment. And so you might recall from the course survey that we asked if you had experience using Conda. If you do, that's great. If not, that's also fine. So today I'm going to talk about the two ways that you can access the notebooks, both on your local machine and using a remote cloud option that is new for Roses 2021. And I want to point out that we would prefer that you use the local setup, and that's one, because it's good to learn how to install these packages on your own research computer so that in the future, after this summer course concludes, you can still access these tools. And the second is to keep our use of the online resource as light as we can. So as Anant already sort of demonstrated here, I'm going to use the clone option, go into a folder where I'd like to clone this repository, and I've already cloned it. So instead of doing that, I will just cd in the repository I already have. And you can see that we have this rosesenvironment.yml file. And so If you have not already installed Conda, you're going to need to install Conda for your system. And so you can just do a Google search for Conda, and there's very clear instructions for how to install Conda on your system. And so I already have Conda installed. So I'm going to say Conda environment create -f, which means from the file rosesend.yml. And I'll go ahead and run this command. We don't need to wait for this command to execute, but basically Conda is going to look at the environment file and decide how everything fits together, download the appropriate versions of packages, and create our environment. And once that environment is done, you'll be able to load and run the Jupyter notebooks that are contained within the ROSES 2021 repository, such as the Unit 0 ops file. While that's running, I will show how to gain an account for our online computing option and how that works. And so I have another window here. You'll want to navigate to roses.asf.alaska.edu. I can share this URL in the technical channel on Slack. So you want to point your browser to this URL. And when you do so, you'll see this login screen here. It says Jupyter Hub at the top. This is the online tool we're going to be using. This is running in the cloud on Amazon Web Services. And so you'll see the ROSES logo, and you click sign in. And because you won't have an account yet, you can click sign up. And you can enter in a username and then your full name. And then the final two entries are very important. So when you enter in your email, be sure to use the email that you entered in on the Google form when you registered, because we have worked with the organizers of this system. And so those emails are automatically going to be granted accounts. If you use a different email, your account will be pending. But if you use the email that you use for registration, and then you enter in a password, you can click sign up, and your account should be ready to go automatically. And so I will now show what it looks like once you log in. So go to the login screen, and you can enter in your name and your password, and you will be taken to a screen that looks like this. If you click on the ROSES directory, this gives you an online environment that should be identical to the one shown on your local machine. This will be identical to the files that are present in the ROSES 2021 repository. And so from there, you can open up a directory, and you can open up, for example, this Jupyter notebook just by clicking on it. And so just to summarize, this is a Jupyter notebook that is running on Amazon Web Services in the cloud, and all of the dependencies that are specified in this environment file are present and installed in this system. This is a Linux system that is actually this notebook is running in. And it's looking like the environment solving step is taking a while here, but you can just give it some time to run in the background, and it will solve and create your environment. And that's for the local option. I think that's all I have to demonstrate here.
Awesome, thanks, Liam. That was great. So I put the link for that in the chat. We will put it in the Slack workspace as well. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. But we do hope that this is an option for those that are on Windows machines or run into issues with any of their programming. But I do want to note that this option is for using the materials for ROSES. So this is, please restrict your usage to running through the ROSES exercises and things like that. So let's see, I wanted to cover a few more things, and I think we'll wrap up pretty early today. But we have in that GitHub put you'll see that there's this Unit 0 OBSPI, and what we've put in that folder is our lectures from last year on OBSPI. So if you feel like you either need a refresher on OBSPI before our course begins or have never used OBSPI before, we would direct you towards those materials and ask you to work through them independently this week. We do have that Unit 0 channel on the Slack workspace. So if you run into issues or have questions, feel free to interact on that workspace, and we will hopefully answer those questions for you. Someone can get out to you for those questions. And then the last thing that I just wanted to touch on is this idea of roses running both synchronously and asynchronously. This is new for us last year. Last year, everything in Roses was live, and this year we've elected to give the option for students to either attend live or watch recordings later at their own time. So this is a learning experience for both of us being the organizing team and all of our attendees. So we really appreciate your patience as we work through how this is all going to work. But my idea is that we will have our live lectures on Tuesday. If it works with your schedule to attend those live lectures, please do. Please, if it, I know we have participants from across the world. So if it is 2 a.m. where you live, and please don't feel obligated to attend the lecture live. I don't want people to be staying up at all hours of the night because they feel like they have to be here live. So if it works with your schedule, great. If not, we will be providing these recordings as soon as they're made available. So hopefully within about 24 hours, the recording will be out, and we'll provide the lab materials, and you can watch the recording and then work through the materials at your own time over the week. And then I did have some people asking me about kind of this idea of a course completion certificate. And so we are going to be working through a way to track if you watched the lecture, if you completed the lab for the week, and then how many of those you completed across the summer. And so stay tuned for that information. We will be working on that as well. And I think that is all I wanted to cover to get today. Again, really short, but the main points here are please join the Slack workspace, introduce yourself, kind of poke your way around, go to the GitHub, make sure you can clone the repository and work through the OBSPI tutorial if you need to. And then if you have questions about anything, feel free to reach out to us. And you can also put questions in the chat right now, and I'm happy to answer them. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover today. Sounds good. Awesome. Cool. Well, if we don't have any, how long is it going to take to load the cloud option? I've tried it now and it doesn't load. I think that what is going to happen is you're going to have to request an account, and then they will grant you access to your account, and then you can log in. So that might take around 24 hours to get that all set up.
The question might be once you have an account activated, if you're seeing a loading bar, and that's normal. So depending on how many machines in the cloud are being started up, because we share compute instances, it might take a little bit of time for your server to start up initially. So if you see a progress bar loading, that's normal. So just give it some time if you're one of the first to log in for a given session.
Okay, great. Well, I think with that, we will end for today. Thanks for coming, and we will see you same time next week for our first session, which will be on metadata. Forgot. Okay, so my homework assignment for all of the attendees is if you go to the Slack workspace and you see the introductions, you'll see that almost every person that's participating so far has introduced themselves. And hopefully they've given a little bit about what they are working on research-wise. So my challenge for each attendee is to go and find one person that does research very similar to you and comment on theirs and maybe make a little connection, and then find one person that does research that's completely different from anything that you do, but you think is really interesting, and also comment on theirs. Because the idea behind Rose is that, one, we are learning a lot about seismology, but two, we're creating connections with other seismologists across the world. And because this is all virtual, we need to rely on tools such as Slack to do this. So please start having having conversations in the Slack channel, making connections, and we hope that that can provide an avenue for networking and collaboration as this summer moves forward. Okay, and with that, I am going to end this webinar for today. Okay.